She was an exhausted ER nurse treating a difficult patient at 2 a.m. When he refused life-saving treatment and kept fighting her, she lost her temper and slapped him across the face. What she didn't know, he was the most dangerous mafia boss in the city. And no one had ever dared touch him like that. The fluorescent lights of St. Clair Hospital's emergency room flickered like dying stars as Ava Chun wiped blood off her scrubs for the third time that night. Her feet ached, her head pounded, and the coffee she'd chugged 4 hours ago had stopped working entirely. "Nurse, we need you in Base 6. Ava didn't even look up. Base 6. That's where the drunk college kids from the bar fight were. She'd already stitched up 2 of them. "Coming," she called back, her voice hoarse. It was 2:47 a.m. on a Friday night, the worst possible time in any emergency room. The waiting area overflowed with people, a woman cradling a broken wrist, a child with a fever, an elderly man clutching his chest. Ava had been working for 14 hours straight, covering for another nurse who'd called in sick. Again. She needed this job. Desperately. Her younger brother Jake's college tuition was due in 2 weeks, and she was still $800 short. "Ava." Dr. Patel's voice cut through the chaos. "Trauma coming in. GSW to the abdomen. ETA, 3 minutes. Gunshot wound." "Great." Ava rushed to Trauma Bay 1, snapping on fresh gloves. Her heart raced, not from fear, but from muscle memory. She'd done this before. Stay calm. Focus. Save lives. The ambulance sirens wailed outside, then went silent. The doors burst open. But something was wrong. There was no ambulance. No paramedics. Instead, 2 men in expensive black suits carried a third man between them, his white shirt soaked crimson. No stretcher. No medical equipment. Just raw, desperate urgency. "Put him on the table," Ava commanded, pushing past her confusion. The men laid him down roughly. Up close, Ava could see the patient clearly, mid-30s, dark hair slicked back, a sharp jawline shadowed with stubble, and eyes that burned with intensity even through obvious pain. His expensive watch caught the light. His shoes alone probably cost more than her monthly rent. "What's his name?" Ava asked, cutting away his shirt with scissors. "John Smith," one of the suited men said flatly. Ava's hands froze for half a second. John Smith. Right. And she was the Queen of England. Allergies? Medical history? None. He's healthy. The wound was bad, a through and through to the left side of his abdomen, but it had missed major organs. Lucky. The patient gritted his teeth, conscious, but fading. "We need to register him," Dr. Patel said, appearing beside her. "Insurance, next of kin?" "Cash," the taller bodyguard interrupted, pulling out a thick envelope. "We pay cash. No paperwork." Dr. Patel's eyes widened, but Ava was already working. She didn't care who this man was, mobster, criminal, fugitive. Right now he was just another patient bleeding on her table. "Ava, start in 4. 2 liters of saline, wide open." She moved efficiently, finding a vein, inserting the catheter. The patient's hand suddenly shot out and gripped her wrist. Hard. His eyes locked onto hers. Dark. Commanding. Almost predatory. "Don't," he growled through clenched teeth. "Sir, you need fluids or you'll go into shock." "I said don't." The bodyguard stepped closer, his jacket opening just enough for Ava to glimpse the gun holstered inside. Her stomach dropped, but she didn't flinch. "Get out of my way," she said coldly, staring the bodyguard down. "Or he dies. Your choice." For a moment, nobody moved. Then the patient laughed, a dark, breathless sound. "She's got fire, Marco." "Boss, she doesn't know." "Shut up," the patient snapped. "Boss." Ava pushed the thought aside. She had a job to do. She started the 4 despite the patient's protest, taping it securely to his arm. Dr. Patel began cleaning the wound, preparing for sutures. Everything was going smoothly. Until it wasn't. The patient suddenly reached up and yanked the 4 needle out of his arm with a sharp hiss, blood trickling down. I don't need this, he snarled, trying to sit up. Are you insane? Ava grabbed his shoulders, pushing him back down. You'll bleed out. Don't touch me. Then stop acting like a child. He tried to sit up again, this time more forcefully. The heart monitor beeped wildly. Dr. Patel shouted something about sedation. The bodyguards moved forward. And Ava, exhausted beyond reason, fueled by 14 hours of chaos and running on pure adrenaline, did something she would replay in her mind 1,000 times. She slapped him. Hard. Across the face. The sound cracked through the emergency room like a gunshot. Everything stopped. The nurses froze mid-step. Dr. Patel's jaw dropped. The bodyguards reached for their weapons. Even the heart monitor seemed to pause. Ava's palm stung. Her brain caught up with her hand about 3 seconds too late. Oh no. Oh no, no, no. The patient, this John Smith, slowly turned his face back toward her. A red handprint bloomed across his cheek. His eyes were wide, not with anger, but with something else entirely. Shock. Disbelief. And then, impossibly, his lips curved into a smile. Not a friendly smile. A dangerous one. Did you just, he began, his voice low and smooth, slap me? Ava's mouth went dry. You were going to hurt yourself. I had to. No one, Marco said quietly, his hand on his gun, has ever touched the boss like that. Boss. There it was again. I don't care if he's the president, Ava shot back, her voice steadier than she felt. In this hospital, he's a patient. And patients follow my rules. The silence stretched impossibly long. Then the patient laughed. A real laugh this time, deep and genuine, though it made him wince in pain. What's your name? He asked. Ava. Ava Chun. Ava, he repeated it like he was tasting wine. I'm going to remember that. Something in his tone made her shiver. Dr. Patel cleared his throat nervously. We need to finish treating him. Do it, the patient said, still staring at Ava. But she stays. Ava wanted to argue, to walk away, to pretend this night never happened. But she couldn't. Something in those dark eyes held her in place. They stitched him up in tense silence. The bodyguards hovered like vultures. The patient never looked away from Ava, even as the needle pierced his skin. When it was done, Marco handed Dr. Patel the envelope of cash, far more than necessary, and they helped the patient to his feet. As they walked toward the exit, the patient paused, turning back one last time. Ava Chun, he said softly. Thank you for the slap. It's been a long time since anyone treated me like a human being. Then he was gone, disappearing into the night with his shadows. Ava stood there, heart pounding, replaying everything. Dr. Patel touched her shoulder. Do you have any idea who that was? John Smith, she offered weakly. That was Lorenzo DeLuca. Dr. Patel's voice dropped to a whisper. The Lorenzo DeLuca, the Mafia boss who runs half the city. Ava's blood turned to ice. And you just slapped him in the face. Ava couldn't sleep. She'd gotten home at 6 a.m., collapsed onto her lumpy mattress, still wearing her scrubs, and stared at the ceiling for 2 hours straight. Every time she closed her eyes, she saw Lorenzo DeLuca's face. That smile. Those dark, knowing eyes. I'm going to remember that. What did that even mean? Her phone buzzed. A text from Jake. Got my chemistry exam today. Wish me luck. Love you, sis. She smiled despite her exhaustion and typed back, You'll ace it. Dinner tonight. Jake was the reason she did everything. After their parents died in a car accident 3 years ago, Ava had become his guardian at 23. He'd been 15 then, angry, lost, barely passing school. Now he was a college freshman studying engineering, and Ava would work herself to the bone to keep him there. Even if it meant working shifts that left her slapping Mafia bosses. She groaned and finally dragged herself to the shower. By the time her next shift rolled around at 8 p.m., Ava had almost convinced herself last night was just a bizarre fever dream. Lorenzo DeLuca probably had a dozen emergencies a week. She was nothing special, just another nurse who'd patched him up. He wouldn't remember her. But as she walked through the hospital parking lot, something felt wrong. A black sedan sat in the corner near the exit, engine idling. Tinted windows. Expensive make. It hadn't been there this morning. Ava's steps slowed. She told herself she was being paranoid. Lots of people had black cars. She pulled out her phone, pretending to text while watching the car from the corner of her eye. It didn't move.
No one got in or out.
Just sitting there, watching. Her heart rate picked up. She walked faster toward the hospital entrance, not looking back until she was safely inside under the bright lights. "You look like you've seen a ghost," Maria, the veteran night nurse, commented as Ava clocked in. "Just tired," Ava lied. The shift started normally enough: a sprained ankle, a kid who'd swallowed a penny, an asthma attack. Routine. Boring. Safe. But every time Ava passed a window overlooking the parking lot, she found herself looking for that black sedan. It was still there at 10 p.m. Still there at midnight. At 2 a.m., during her break, Ava stood by the window with her cold coffee and watched it. The car hadn't moved in 6 hours. No parking enforcement had ticketed it. It just waited. "Ava, you coming?" Maria called from the break room. "Yeah, 1 second." She was being ridiculous. It was just a car. But when she looked down again, she saw something that made her blood run cold. A man in a dark suit stood beside the sedan, looking directly up at her window. Even from 4 floors up, she could see he was speaking into a phone. Watching her. Reporting. Ava stumbled backward, her coffee cup slipping from her hands and shattering on the floor. "Ava." Maria rushed over. "What's wrong?" "Nothing.
I'm fine."
Just clumsy." But she wasn't fine. Inside the black sedan, Marco lowered his phone and glanced at his partner, Vincenzo, who was parked across the street in a second vehicle. "She just spotted me," Marco said into his radio. "Boss wants constant surveillance," Vincenzo replied. "No contact. Just watch. She's going to notice eventually. That's not our problem." Marco sighed and looked back up at the hospital window where Ava had disappeared. He'd been doing this job for Lorenzo De Luca for 8 years. Protection details, enforcement, the occasional cleanup. But this? Babysitting a nurse who didn't even know she needed protecting. This was new. When Lorenzo had been shot 2 nights ago by the Moretti family's ambush, Marco had thought they were done for. But the boss had survived, barely, thanks to some quick thinking and that little hospital. Thanks to her. And now Lorenzo was obsessed. Find out everything about her. Lorenzo had ordered from his recovery bed at the estate, his voice still weak but commanding. Family, debts, habits, vulnerabilities. "I want to know who Ava Chen is." Marco had done his job. The report sat in a folder on the passenger seat. Ava Chen, 26. Orphaned at 23. Legal guardian to younger brother, Jake Chen, 18. Works double shifts at St. Clair Hospital. $47,000 in student loan debt, hers and her brother's combined. No criminal record.
No boyfriend.
Lives in a 1-bedroom apartment in the South District. She was nobody. A civilian. Exactly the kind of person who should stay far away from Lorenzo's world. But Lorenzo didn't see it that way. "She slapped me, Marco," he'd said, almost wonderingly. "Do you know how long it's been since someone wasn't afraid of me?" "She didn't know who you were, boss." Exactly, Lorenzo had smiled then. That dangerous smile. She saw a difficult patient and put him in his place.
No hesitation.
No fear. Marco knew that look. It was the same look Lorenzo got before acquiring something he wanted. A business. A territory. A person. Back in the ER, Ava made it through her shift on pure anxiety. Every shadow looked suspicious. Every stranger could be watching. At 6 a.m., she clocked out with Maria. "Want to share a cab?" Maria offered. "No, I'll take the bus. Save money. Suit yourself." As Ava walked to the bus stop 3 blocks away, dawn was just breaking. The streets were empty except for a few delivery trucks and early morning joggers. The black sedan was gone. She let out a breath she didn't know she'd been holding.
See?
Paranoid. Nothing to worry about. The bus arrived, nearly empty. Ava climbed on, paid her fare, and collapsed into a window seat. As the bus pulled away, she glanced back at the hospital one last time. A different black car sat in the parking lot now. Same make. Same tinted windows. Ava's hands started shaking. She pulled out her phone and did something she'd never done before. She Googled Lorenzo DeLuca. The results made her stomach drop. Alleged crime boss controls major operations. Linked to 7 unsolved murders. Dangerous and untouchable. And there, 3 articles down. Moretti DeLuca gang war escalates. Bodies found in harbor. The article was dated yesterday. Ava read with growing horror. Lorenzo's enemies, the Moretti family, were hunting him. The ambush that had sent him to her ER was just the beginning. Both sides were preparing for all-out war. And she'd slapped him in front of his men. She was either the bravest person alive or the stupidest. Her phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number.
Get home safely, Ava.
The streets aren't safe at night.
No signature. No explanation.
Just a message that meant one terrifying thing. Someone was watching her right now. Ava looked around the bus frantically, but saw only tired workers heading to early shifts. Outside the window, a black motorcycle kept pace with the bus, the rider's helmet reflecting the sunrise. She was being followed, and there was nothing she could do about it. Ava lasted 2 days before her paranoia turned into routine. Black cars followed her to work, followed her home, sat outside her apartment building. She reported it to the police once, but the officer had barely looked up from his paperwork. You see the license plate? No, but... Then there's nothing we can do, miss. Lots of black cars in the city. She'd left the station feeling more alone than ever. Jake noticed something was wrong at dinner that night. They sat in her tiny kitchen, eating takeout Chinese food because Ava was too exhausted to cook. You keep looking at the window, Jake said, pointing his chopsticks at her. What's going on? Nothing. Just tired. You're always tired, he frowned. Is it money? Because I can get a part-time job. No. Ava's voice came out sharper than intended. You focus on school. That's your only job. Jake looked like he wanted to argue, but didn't. He was a good kid. Too good for the hand they'd been dealt. After he left for his evening class, Ava stood at her window and stared down at the street. A black sedan sat under a broken streetlight, always watching. She closed the curtains and tried to convince herself this would pass. Lorenzo DeLuca would get bored. Find someone else to obsess over. Forget the nurse who'd slapped him. She was wrong. 2 nights later, Ava's shift ended at 11 p.m. Maria had called in sick, actually sick this time, not hungover, so Ava had worked alone through another chaotic Friday night. The last bus ran at 11:30. She'd have to hurry. The hospital parking lot was poorly lit, half the bulbs burned out for months. Ava walked quickly, keys wedged between her fingers like her mom had taught her years ago. The black sedan was gone. For the first time in 3 days, no one was watching. Ava should have felt relieved. Instead, her instincts screamed danger. She made it to the bus stop just as the bus pulled away, its taillights disappearing around the corner. No. She checked her phone. 11:31. The next bus wasn't until 6 a.m.
A taxi, then.
She opened the app, but her phone showed only 3% battery.
Perfect.
The street was deserted. Most businesses were closed, security gates pulled down. In the distance, she could hear music from a late-night bar, but it was blocks away. Ava started walking toward the main road, where she'd have better luck catching a cab. She made it 2 blocks before she heard footsteps behind her. She walked faster. The footsteps matched her pace. Her heart hammered. She glanced back and saw 2 men in dark clothing, their faces shadowed by baseball caps. Not Lorenzo's men. She'd seen enough of his suited bodyguards to know the difference. These men looked hungry. Ava broke into a run.
Hey.
Stop, one of them shouted.
She didn't stop.
She ran faster than she'd ever run, her lungs burning, her bag slapping against her side. The footsteps behind her grew louder, closer. A hand grabbed her jacket. Ava screamed and spun around, scratching at the man's face with her keys. He cursed and stumbled back. You little. The second man grabbed her from behind, one arm wrapping around her throat. Stop fighting or this gets worse. Ava struggled, gasping for air. Let me go. I don't have any money. We don't want your money, the first man said, pulling out a photo on his phone. Even in the dim light, Ava recognized it, her and Lorenzo in the ER, caught on someone's camera. We want to know about DeLuca. Terror flooded her system. I don't know him. I treated him once. Liar. You're his girl. Moretti's gonna pay good money for you. Moretti. The rival family. I'm not his girl. I'm just a nurse. The man holding her tightened his grip. Save it for her. Bright headlights suddenly flooded the alley. A sleek black car screeched to a stop, blocking the exit. Doors flew open and 3 men in suits emerged. Ava recognized Marco immediately. Let her go, Marco said calmly, his hand inside his jacket where Ava knew his gun was holstered. The Moretti thugs hesitated. The one holding Ava pressed something sharp against her side. A knife. Back off or I cut her, he threatened. Everything happened in 3 seconds. Marco drew his gun. A shot rang out. The man holding Ava screamed and dropped, clutching his leg. The knife clattered to the pavement. The second man tried to run but was tackled by Marco's associates. Ava stood frozen, shaking violently. Marco approached her slowly, hands visible. You're safe now. Come with us. No. Ava backed away. No, I'm not going anywhere with you. Miss Chun, those men were going to kill you. Or worse. Because of him, Ava's voice cracked. Because your boss won't leave me alone. And that's exactly why you're not safe out here. Marco's voice softened.
Please.
The boss wants to explain. I don't care what he wants. Marco sighed and pulled out his phone, dialing. After a moment, he handed it to Ava.
She didn't want to take it.
But her hands moved on their own. Hello. Ava. Lorenzo's voice was smooth as silk, slightly rough from his injury. I imagine you're upset. Upset. She laughed bitterly. I was just attacked because of you. I know. And I'm sorry, he actually sounded sincere. If my men hadn't been watching, you'd be in a Moretti warehouse right now. So let me ask you, would you prefer to keep your freedom and die in a week, or come with Marco and stay alive? Those aren't my only options. Actually, they are, his voice hardened. The Morettis think you're important to me. They'll keep coming. Your apartment isn't safe. Your brother isn't safe. The only place you're protected is with me. This is kidnapping. It's survival. Choose. Ava looked at Marco, at the wounded man being loaded into a car, at the dark street where she'd nearly been taken. She thought of Jake. If these men found her, they'd find him too. If I come with you, she said slowly, my brother stays out of this. You protect him. Already done. 2 of my best men are watching him right now. That should have made her angry. Instead, she felt a twisted sense of relief. Fine, she handed the phone back to Marco. But this isn't me surrendering. It's me surviving. Marco almost smiled. Boss will appreciate the distinction. As they drove through the city toward the outskirts, Ava watched her normal life disappear in the rearview mirror. Her apartment, her hospital, her freedom, all gone in one night. The car eventually turned down a private road lined with trees. At the end stood a massive villa, all white stone and iron gates. Lorenzo's estate. Her prison. The gates opened, and they pulled inside. Ava stepped out onto marble pavement, staring up at the mansion that would become her cage. The front door opened, and Lorenzo DeLuca stood there, leaning slightly on a cane, his abdomen still bandaged beneath his expensive shirt. He smiled when he saw her. "Welcome home, Ava." The room was bigger than Ava's entire apartment. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooked manicured gardens. A four-poster bed sat against one wall, draped in silk. The bathroom had a marble tub large enough to swim in. Everything screamed wealth and power. Everything screamed cage. "I hope it's comfortable," Lorenzo said from the doorway. He hadn't come inside, respecting some invisible boundary. "You're not a prisoner, Ava. You're a guest. Guests can leave whenever they want." His jaw tightened. "Guests don't have the Moretti family hunting them. Because of you." Yes, he didn't deny it. "Because I made the mistake of looking interested in you for 5 seconds, and now they think you're leverage." He paused.
I'm sorry. Truly.
Ava wanted to throw something at him. Instead, she crossed her arms. "How long? How long what? How long am I stuck here?" Lorenzo leaned against the doorframe, his movements still careful because of his wound. "Until the Moretti problem is resolved." "And how long will that take?" His silence was answer enough. "Great." Ava sat on the edge of the bed, suddenly exhausted. "Just perfect. There are books in the library."
A pool.
"Anything you need, just ask the staff." He turned to leave, then stopped. "Oh, and Ava? Don't try to leave the grounds. My men have orders to stop you. For your own protection." The door closed with a soft click. Ava was alone in her golden cage. The first day, she refused to leave her room. The second day, boredom drove her to explore. The villa was obscene in its luxury, marble everywhere, paintings that looked museum quality, furniture that probably cost more than her yearly salary. But what struck Ava most was how empty it felt, like a showroom, not a home. She counted 17 staff members and at least a dozen guards patrolling the grounds. All of them avoided eye contact with her, as if she were invisible or dangerous. On the third day, Lorenzo found her in the library. "You read medical journals for fun?" he asked, noting the text in her hands. Ava didn't look up. "I like staying sharp. Unlike some people who get shot in gang wars." "Touché." He settled into the chair across from her with a slight wince. "How's your imprisonment treating you?" "Like imprisonment? You could think of it as a vacation. Vacations are voluntary." Lorenzo smiled despite himself. "You don't make anything easy, do you?" "Why should I?" They sat in silence for a moment. Then Lorenzo shifted, and Ava caught the way his hand pressed against his abdomen. Her nurse instincts kicked in before she could stop them. "You're in pain."
I've fine.
"You're not fine. You're pressing your left side, which means the stitches are either infected or you've been moving too much." She closed her book. "When's the last time someone changed your bandages?" "This morning." "Show me." "Ava." "Show me." Something in her tone, that same commanding voice from the ear, made him comply. He stood and unbuttoned his shirt, revealing the bandages wrapped around his torso. Ava approached clinically, professionally. But when she peeled back the gauze, she saw red inflammation spreading from the wound site. "This is infected. You need antibiotics, rest, and proper wound care." She looked up at him. "Who's been treating you?" "Dr. Russo comes twice a week." "Not good enough. Infection like this needs daily monitoring." She pressed gently around the wound, ignoring how Lorenzo tensed. "Does this hurt?" "Yes."
Good.
"Pain means you're alive." She stepped back. "I need medical supplies. Antibiotics, fresh bandages, antiseptic. I'll have Marco bring everything. And you need to stop whatever ridiculous macho activities you're doing. Your body needs to heal." Lorenzo's eyes held something Ava couldn't quite read. "Will you take care of it?" "The wound." "I'm not your personal nurse."
No.
"You're my guest who happens to be an excellent nurse." He smiled slightly. "Please, Ava. I trust you." The word trust hung between them, heavy with meaning. Against her better judgment, Ava nodded.
Fine.
"But you follow my orders." "All of them." "Yes, ma'am." It became a routine. Every evening, Ava would check Lorenzo's wound, change his bandages, monitor his recovery. He'd sit patiently, surprisingly so for a man who commanded an empire, and let her work. They'd talk during these sessions. Small things at first. Safe things. Why nursing? He asked one evening. My mom was a nurse. She used to say it was the closest thing to being a superhero. Ava's hands stilled for a moment. She died before she could see me graduate. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Me too. Another evening. Why crime? She asked, the words out before she could stop them. Lorenzo was quiet for a long moment. Family business. My father ran it, his father before him. I tried to leave once, when I was 20. Wanted to be an architect, believe it or not, he laughed bitterly. 2 days after I moved out, my father was murdered. I came back to find his killers. I never left again. Ava processed this. You had a choice. Did I? His eyes met hers. When your brother needed you, did you have a choice? She didn't answer, because they both knew she hadn't. The days blurred together. Ava's anger slowly dulled into something more complicated. Lorenzo was charming, intelligent, surprisingly well-read. He asked about her day, remembered small details, made her laugh despite herself. But she'd also see the other side. The way his men trembled when delivering bad news. The cold authority in his voice during phone calls. The gun he kept in his desk drawer. He was dangerous. She couldn't forget that. One night, Ava woke to sounds from the room next door.
Shouting.
Thrashing. She pressed her ear to the wall and heard Lorenzo's voice, rough with sleep and panic. No, Papa, don't. Nightmares. The shouting continued, and Ava found herself in the hallway before she'd made a conscious decision. Guards watched her, but didn't stop her as she knocked on Lorenzo's door. No answer.
Just more shouting.
She opened the door. Lorenzo was tangled in his sheets, drenched in sweat, his face twisted in anguish. Don't leave me, he mumbled. Please don't leave. Lorenzo, Ava approached carefully, like he was one of her patients. Wake up. It's just a dream. His eyes snapped open, wild and unfocused. For a second, she saw genuine fear. Then recognition. Ava, you were having a nightmare. He sat up slowly, running a hand through his damp hair.
I'm sorry.
Did I wake you?
Yes.
But that's not important. She sat on the edge of his bed, maintaining professional distance. How often do you have these? Does it matter? It does if you want to heal properly. Stress affects recovery. Lorenzo looked at her for a long moment. Then, quietly, every night since my father died. 12 years. Something in Ava's chest cracked at the raw honesty. You don't have to be strong all the time, she said softly. In my world, I do. Well, you're not in your world right now. You're in this room. With me. And I've seen worse than nightmares. He smiled slightly. Thank you, Ava. She should have left then. Returned to her room. Maintained boundaries. Instead, she stayed until he fell back asleep, his breathing finally steady. As she walked back to her room, Ava realized something terrifying. The lines between captor and captive were starting to blur. And she didn't entirely hate it. 2 weeks passed like a fever dream. Ava fell into a strange rhythm. Mornings in the garden with coffee. Afternoons reading or swimming. Evenings tending to Lorenzo's wound, which was finally healing properly. Nights lying awake, thinking about things she shouldn't. Like how his laugh sounded genuine now. How he remembered she took her coffee black. How his eyes followed her across every room. She video called Jake daily. He thought she was staying with a friend from work, covering extra shifts. The lie tasted bitter, but it kept him safe. You look different, Jake said during their latest call. Rested maybe? Just sleeping better, another lie. After they hung up, Ava found Lorenzo in his office, surrounded by papers and laptop screens. He looked exhausted. You're supposed to be resting, she said from the doorway. I'm sitting down. That counts. Lorenzo. There are 43 businesses that depend on me, Ava. 200 employees. If I don't work, people don't eat, he rubbed his eyes. Crime boss doesn't get sick days. She understood that pressure. When's the last time you slept? Does it matter? Yes. He looked at her then, really looked at her. Why do you care? The question hung between them. Why did she care? He'd kidnapped her, turned her life upside down. By all logic, she should hate him. But she'd seen too much. The nightmares, the loneliness, the weight of responsibility that aged him beyond his years. Because someone should, she said finally. Something shifted in his expression. Come with me. I want to show you something. He led her through the villa to a wing she hadn't explored. At the end of a hallway, he opened a door to reveal an art studio, easels, paints, canvases stacked against walls. You paint? Ava asked, surprised. Painted. Past tense, Lorenzo walked to a covered canvas in the corner. My mother's. She died when I was 16. Cancer. He pulled the sheet away, revealing a stunning landscape. Mountains at sunset, colors bleeding into each other like liquid gold. It's beautiful. She wanted me to be an artist. Or an architect. Anything, but he gestured vaguely. This. Ava studied the painting, then him. You could still leave. Start over. Could you? Leave Jake. Walk away from everything you've built for him. That's different. Is it? Lorenzo moved closer. We're both trapped by love, Ava. You just have the moral high ground. At least I'm not trapping anyone else. Aren't you? His voice dropped. You could have fought harder to leave. Could have called police, made a scene. But you stayed. Why? The question cut too close. Because he was right, she had stopped fighting. Stopped resisting. Because I'm smart enough to know when I don't have a choice. Is that all? He was too close now. She could smell his cologne, see the gold flecks in his dark eyes. Her heart hammered traitorously. Yes, she whispered. That's all. Liar. But he stepped back, giving her space. Always testing boundaries, never quite crossing them. The next afternoon, Lorenzo found her by the pool. I have something for you, he handed her a phone. Encrypted. Untraceable. You can call Jake, your friends, whoever you want. Ava stared at the device. Why? Because keeping you isolated feels too much like the prison you accused me of creating, he sat beside her. I'm trying, Ava, to be better than what I am. She turned the phone over in her hands. This was a gift, yes, but also a test. Would she call for help? Try to escape. There's a condition, Lorenzo added. Tomorrow night, have dinner with me. Not here. A real restaurant. Be seen with me publicly. Why? Because the Morettis need to know you're under my protection. Officially. It'll keep them away, he paused. And because I'd like one evening where we're not in this house, pretending we're something we're not. What are we pretending to be? Enemies, his eyes held hers. When we both know that stopped being true days ago. Ava's breath caught. Because he was right, and it terrified her. One dinner, she said. That's it. Lorenzo smiled. That's all I'm asking. The dress arrived that evening. Emerald silk that fit perfectly. Ava stared at herself in the mirror, barely recognizing the woman looking back. Elegant. Expensive. Dangerous. Lorenzo's woman. The thought should have repulsed her. Instead, butterflies danced in her stomach. When she descended the stairs, Lorenzo waited at the bottom in a tailored black suit. He looked up, and the expression on his face made her feel like the only person in the world. You're stunning, he said quietly. You're injured, she countered. Should you even be going out? For you, I'd go anywhere. The drive to the restaurant was tense with unspoken things. Lorenzo's hand rested on the seat between them, close enough to touch, far enough to be safe. The restaurant was exclusive, the kind where politicians and business moguls made deals over wine. Every head turned when they entered. They're staring, Ava whispered. Let them. I want everyone to know you're with me. The possessiveness in his voice should have angered her. Instead, it sent heat through her veins. Dinner was surprisingly normal. They talked about books, argued about movies, laughed at stupid jokes. For 2 hours, Ava forgot he was a crime lord and she was his captive. She just felt like a woman on a date with a man who made her feel alive. Tell me something true, Lorenzo said over dessert. Something you've never told anyone. Ava considered lying, playing it safe. Instead, sometimes I resent Jake. I love him more than anything, but sometimes I wonder who I'd be if I didn't have to take care of him. If I could have been selfish. Lorenzo nodded slowly. I understand that more than you know. Your turn. Something true. He leaned forward, his voice low and honest. I haven't felt human in years. Until you slapped me in that hospital. For the first time in a decade, someone treated me like I was just a man. He paused. You make me want to be just a man, Ava. Not a boss. Not a monster.
Just.
Lorenzo. Her throat tightened. I don't know if I can give you that. I'm not asking you to. I'm just telling you the truth. On the drive home, his hand finally found hers in the darkness. Ava didn't pull away. They stood at her bedroom door, neither wanting to say goodnight. Thank you, Ava said. For tonight. For the phone. For trying. Ava, Lorenzo lifted his hand, tucking a strand of hair behind her ear. His thumb traced her cheekbone. Tell me to stop. She should. Every logical part of her screamed to step back, maintain distance, remember who he was. Instead, she whispered, I can't. He kissed her then, soft, questioning, giving her every chance to pull away. She kissed him back. It was a mistake. She knew it was a mistake. But God, it felt like the first right thing in weeks. When they finally broke apart, Lorenzo rested his forehead against hers. This changes everything, he breathed. I know. Are you afraid? Terrified. Good, he smiled against her lips. So am I. Ava woke to the sound of gunfire. For a moment, she thought she was dreaming. Then the window beside her bed exploded inward, glass sprang across the floor. She rolled out of bed, heart hammering, as more shots cracked through the night.
Shouts.
Running footsteps. Chaos. Her door burst open. Marco stood there, gun drawn. Stay down. We're under attack. What's happening? Moretus. They breached the south gate. He scanned the hallway. I need to get you to the safe room. An explosion rocked the villa. The lights flickered and died, plunging everything into darkness. Forget the safe room, Marco decided. Stay with me. We're going to the boss. They ran through pitch-black corridors, lit only by muzzle flashes from outside. Ava's bare feet crunched on broken glass. Her mind raced with medical training, gunshot wounds, triage, blood loss, shock. They found Lorenzo in his office, barking orders into a phone while loading a gun with his free hand. When he saw Ava, relief flashed across his face. Get her out of here, he told Marco. No. Ava's voice was steady despite her terror. If people are getting hurt, you need me. Ava. I'm a nurse, Lorenzo. This is what I do. Another explosion. Closer this time. The building shuddered. Lorenzo's jaw clenched.
Fine.
But you stay with Marco. Always. The next 20 minutes were a blur of violence. Ava crouched behind furniture while bullets shattered windows. She watched Lorenzo move like a different person, precise, deadly, commanding. This was the crime boss she'd heard about. Cold. Efficient. Terrifying. A guard stumbled through the doorway, clutching his shoulder. Blood poured between his fingers. Ava's training kicked in. She rushed to him, pressing her hands over the wound. Marco, I need towels. Anything clean? Miss Chun, you need to stay hidden. Get me towels now. Marco obeyed. Ava worked quickly, applying pressure, checking for exit wounds. The bullet had gone through, messy, but survivable. You'll be okay. Keep pressure here. 2 more wounded men appeared. Then 3. Soon Ava was triaging in the middle of a war zone, her hands covered in blood, her dress soaked crimson. Lorenzo kept glancing at her between firing out the window. She could see the conflict in his eyes, pride and terror fighting for dominance. "They're retreating," someone shouted. The gunfire slowed, then stopped. An eerie silence fell over the villa. Lorenzo immediately crossed to Ava, checking her for injuries. "Are you hurt?"
No.
"But your men are," she gestured to the wounded. "We need to get them proper medical attention." "Already called." Dr. Russo is en route. His hands framed her face, thumbs brushing her cheeks. "You shouldn't have done that. You should have hidden. People were dying. You could have died. So could you." Ava grabbed his shirt, anger and adrenaline surging. "You were standing in front of a window. What were you thinking?" "That I needed to protect what's mine." The possessiveness should have annoyed her. Instead, it made her kiss him, hard and desperate, tasting fear and relief and something deeper. When they broke apart, Marco cleared his throat awkwardly. "Boss, we captured one of them." The Moretti soldier was bloodied and beaten, tied to a chair in the basement. Lorenzo stood before him, his expression glacial. "Who sent you?" Lorenzo's voice was knife-sharp. The man spat blood. "Go to hell." "Eventually. But you'll get there first," Lorenzo nodded to Marco, who stepped forward with brass knuckles. "Wait." Ava's voice stopped them. She'd followed despite Marco's protests. "Let me talk to him." Lorenzo turned. "Ava, just give me 5 minutes." Reluctantly, Lorenzo stepped back. Ava approached the wounded man, her nurse instincts cataloging his injuries: broken ribs, dislocated shoulder, bleeding from multiple cuts. She knelt to his eye level. "You're hurt badly," she said gently. "Let me help you." "Helping me?" He laughed bitterly. "You're DeLuca's whore." "I'm a nurse. And whether you believe it or not, I don't want to see anyone die tonight." She paused. "You're someone's son. Maybe someone's brother. They're probably worried about you." Something flickered in his eyes. "Tell them what they want to know," Ava continued. "Not for Lorenzo. For yourself. So you can go home." The man stared at her for a long moment. Then, quietly, "Antonio Moretti ordered it himself. Said to send a message. Said DeLuca's gotten soft." Lorenzo stepped forward. "Where is Antonio?" "Warehouse. East Docks. That's all I know." Lorenzo nodded to Marco. "Get him medical attention. Then lock him up." As they dragged the man away, Lorenzo turned to Ava with an unreadable expression. "You're extraordinary, you know that? I just didn't want more violence. You got information through kindness that torture would have taken hours to extract." He pulled her close. "You see the human in everyone. Even my enemies." "Even you," she whispered. His arms tightened around her. "Especially me." Later, after the wounded were treated and the villa secured, Ava found Lorenzo on the balcony, staring at the dawn. She wrapped a blanket around her shoulders and stood beside him. "I have to go after them," he said quietly. "Antonio won't stop." Tonight proved that. "I know. This is my world, Ava. Violence, blood, war. This is what I am." He turned to face her. "And you saved my men tonight without hesitation. You stayed when you could have run. You chose to be here. I chose to save lives. You chose me." His voice was raw. "Admit it. You're not here because you're trapped. You're here because somewhere along the way, you stopped wanting to leave." Ava's throat tightened because it was true. Somewhere between the wound care and the nightmares and the kiss, she'd fallen for the monster. "You're right," she admitted. "And it terrifies me." "It terrifies me too." Lorenzo pulled her against him. "I've never cared about someone the way I care about you. That makes you my greatest strength and my greatest weakness. The Morettis know that now."
"Yes."
"Tonight made you a permanent target." He tilted her chin up. "I can end this. I can finish the war with Antonio. But it means embracing everything I am, the violence, the darkness, all of it. And I need to know you can handle that." Ava thought of the man tied to the chair, the blood on her hands, the life she'd left behind. She thought of Lorenzo's nightmares, his lost dreams, the way he looked at her like she was something sacred. I can handle it, she said. But on one condition. Anything. You let me be your conscience. When you're about to lose yourself, I pull you back. That's the deal. Lorenzo smiled, a real smile, soft and genuine.
Deal.
As the sun rose over the damaged villa, Ava realized she'd crossed a line she could never uncross. She wasn't Lorenzo's prisoner anymore. She was his partner. And the world was about to learn what that meant. The call came 3 days after the attack. Ava was reviewing medical supplies in the villa's makeshift infirmary when Marco appeared in the doorway, his face grim. It's your brother. Her blood turned to ice. What about him? 2 men approached him outside his dorm. Ask questions about you. Our guards intervened before anything happened, but Marco hesitated. He knows something's wrong now. He's demanding answers. Ava's hands shook. She'd kept Jake safe by keeping him ignorant. Now that protection was crumbling. I need to see him, Miss Chen. I need to see my brother, Marco. Lorenzo appeared behind him. Then you will. We'll bring him here. Absolutely not. I'm not dragging him into this world. He's already in it. Lorenzo's voice was gentle but firm. The moment the Morettas learned about him, he became part of this. At least here, we can protect him. Ava wanted to argue, to scream, to blame Lorenzo for destroying her carefully constructed walls. But he was right. Jake was in danger because of her. Because of them. Bring him here, she whispered. But Lorenzo, if anything happens to him, it won't. I promise you. Jake arrived 2 hours later, confusion and anger written across his face. When he saw Ava, he rushed forward and hugged her tight. What the hell is going on?
Who are these people?
Why are there men with guns following me? He pulled back, studying her. Ava, what have you gotten into? She led him to a sitting room, Lorenzo following at a respectful distance. Jake, I need you to listen carefully. Remember when I said I was staying with a friend? She took a breath.
Elite.
I've been here. With him. She gestured to Lorenzo. Jake's eyes widened as he took in Lorenzo. Expensive suit, commanding presence, the aura of controlled danger. Who is he? My name is Lorenzo DeLuca, Lorenzo said calmly. And I'm the reason your sister is alive. Jake's confusion turned to recognition, then horror. DeLuca? As in the mob? Oh my God, Ava, what did you do? I saved his life, Ava said. And then his enemies came after me. After us. She explained everything, the ER, the slap, the surveillance, the attempted kidnapping. Jake listened with growing disbelief. So, you're being held hostage? Jake stood, fists clenched. I'm calling the police. I'm not a hostage. Ava's voice was quiet. Not anymore. Jake stared at her. What does that mean? It means she's here by choice, Lorenzo said. And it means you're in danger because of your connection to her. My men will continue to protect you, but you needed to know the truth. Jake looked between them, and Ava saw the moment understanding dawned. You're with him. Romantically. You're with a crime lord. It's complicated. It's insane. Jake's voice rose. Ava, these people are dangerous. They kill people. You're a nurse. You save lives. You don't. He gestured helplessly at Lorenzo. This isn't you. Maybe it is now, Ava said softly. The words hung in the air like a confession. Jake shook his head, backing toward the door. I can't. I need to go. I need to think. Jake, wait. Just give me some time, okay? I'll be fine with the guards or whatever. He looked at Lorenzo. You keep her safe. Because if anything happens to my sister, I don't care who you are. Then he was gone, escorted by Marco back to campus. Ava stood frozen, tears streaming down her face. Lorenzo moved to comfort her, but she stepped back.
He's right.
This is insane. What am I doing? You're surviving. You're living. I'm becoming someone I don't recognize. She wiped her eyes angrily. I've always been the responsible one. The one who does the right thing. And now I'm in love with a man who... She stopped, realizing what she'd said. Lorenzo's expression softened. Say it again. What? You said you're in love with me. Say it again. Lorenzo, that's not the point. It's the only point. He closed the distance between them. Everything else, the danger, the violence, the world we're in, I can handle that. But I need to know if what's between us is real. Ava looked at him, through her tears. Of course it's real. That's what makes this so impossible. It's not impossible if we choose it. And what kind of life would that be? Always looking over our shoulders? Always in danger? Lorenzo was quiet for a moment. Then, what if he didn't have to? He led her to his office and opened a locked drawer, pulling out a folder. I've been working on this since the attack, he said, handing it to her. Inside were documents, new identities, property deeds in foreign countries, bank account information. What is this? A way out. For you, Lorenzo's voice was steady, but his eyes held pain. New name, new life. I'll relocate you and Jake somewhere safe. Europe, Asia, South America, anywhere you want. Full protection, financial security. You'll never have to worry about the Morettis or anyone else. Ava stared at the papers, her hands trembling. You're letting me go? I'm giving you a choice. The choice you never had before. He swallowed hard. Stay here, in my world, with all its darkness and danger. Build a life with me knowing what that means. Or take these papers, start fresh, and be safe. And you? I finish what needs to be finished. I end the war with the Morettis. I keep you safe from a distance. His voice cracked slightly. I let you go, because I love you too much to trap you. Tears blurred Ava's vision. This was freedom. Real freedom. Everything she'd wanted since that first night. So, why did it feel like losing everything? How long do I have to decide? The documents are ready. I've arranged a private flight for tomorrow night. You and Jake can be in Barcelona by Sunday. He touched her face gently. But Ava, if you choose to stay, there's no going back. You'll be part of this world permanently. I need you to understand that. What do you want me to choose? Lorenzo smiled sadly. I want you to choose yourself. For once in your life, be selfish. Choose what you want, not what you think you should want. Ava looked at the folder in her hands, at the promise of safety, normalcy, peace. Then she looked at Lorenzo, at the man who'd shown her passion, danger, and a love that defied logic. I need time, she whispered. Take all the time you need. But tomorrow night, the plane leaves. With or without you. That night, Ava sat alone in her room, the folder open on her bed. Two choices. Two completely different futures. One where she was safe but alone. One where she was terrified but alive. Her phone buzzed. A text from Jake. I'm sorry I freaked out. Whatever you decide, I support you. I love you. Then another text from an unknown number. The plane departs at 10 p.m.
Got the shoe.
Your choice. L. Ava closed her eyes and let herself imagine both futures. In one, she saw herself teaching at a hospital in Barcelona, Jake graduating college safely, quiet dinners and peaceful nights. Normal. Safe. Empty. In the other, she saw Lorenzo's arms around her, dangerous days and passionate nights, a life lived on the edge.
Terrifying.
Intoxicating.
Real.
Her phone buzzed again. The news. Gang war escalates. Antonio Moretti threatens De Luca Empire. If she left, Lorenzo would face this alone. If she stayed, she'd face it with him. The choice should have been obvious. But as midnight approached, Ava still sat frozen, the folder in her lap, her heart pulling her in two directions. Tomorrow night, she'd have to choose. And either way, nothing would ever be the same. The airport was quiet at 9:45 p.m. Ava stood at gate 7, boarding pass in hand, her single suitcase at her feet. Jake stood beside her, his acceptance letter to a Barcelona University program clutched in his hands. Lorenzo had arranged everything. Are you sure about this? Jake asked for the third time. Ava wasn't sure about anything. She'd spent the entire day in agony, packing and unpacking, writing goodbye letters she couldn't send. Lorenzo had been absent all day. Marco said he was handling business. Ava knew that meant preparing for war with the Morettas. Alone. Final boarding call for Flight 447 to Barcelona. The announcement echoed through the terminal. This was it.
Safety.
Freedom. A normal life. Everything she should want. Jake picked up his bag.
Come on, sis.
Let's go. Ava took one step toward the gate. Then stopped. Because on the TV screen mounted above the waiting area, a breaking news report flashed. Gang violence erupts at East Docks. Multiple casualties reported. The camera showed the warehouse Lorenzo had mentioned. Smoke. Flames. Police lights. Her heart stopped.
Ava.
Jake touched her arm. What's wrong? She couldn't breathe.
Couldn't think.
All she could see was Lorenzo, bleeding, alone, dying while she ran away to safety. I can't do this. What? I can't get on that plane. Ava turned to face her brother, tears streaming. Jake, I love him. I know it's crazy and dangerous and wrong, but I love him. And if something happens to him while I'm running away, I'll never forgive myself. Jake stared at her, then slowly smiled. Finally. What? Finally, you're choosing what you want instead of what you think you should do. He hugged her tight.
Go.
I'll be fine. I'll take the program in Barcelona, get my degree, be safe.
But you?
You need to go save your crime boss. But Jake.
I'm 18, Ava.
Not a kid anymore. You've given up everything for me. Now it's time you lived for yourself. He pushed her gently toward the exit.
Go.
Before it's too late, Ava ran. She commandeered Marco's car from the parking lot. He taught her to drive it weeks ago, during her freedom tests, and drove like hell toward the docks. The scene was chaos. Fire trucks, ambulances, police barricades, bodies on stretchers. The warehouse was burning. Ava abandoned the car and ran toward the emergency vehicles, her medical training overriding fear. I'm a nurse, she shouted to a paramedic. Where are the wounded? Triad area over there. She found them, Lorenzo's men, bloodied and broken. She started working immediately, applying pressure to wounds, checking vitals, stabilizing the critical cases. Where's Lorenzo? She demanded of one conscious guard. Inside. Moretti had explosives. The boss went in to stop him. An explosion rocked the warehouse. Part of the roof collapsed. No. Ava tried to run toward the building, but a firefighter grabbed her. You can't go in there. It's too dangerous. The hell I can't. She broke free and ran through the smoke, covering her mouth with her jacket. The heat was unbearable. Flames licked at the walls. Debris rained down. Lorenzo, she screamed. Lorenzo. Through the smoke, she saw two figures fighting. Lorenzo and a man she assumed was Antonio Moretti, both bloodied, both struggling near a pile of crates. Lorenzo's wound had reopened. She could see blood soaking through his shirt. Ava. Lorenzo's distraction cost him. Antonio landed a brutal punch, sending him staggering. Ava grabbed a piece of pipe from the rubble and swung it with everything she had, catching Antonio across the back. He went down hard. Police burst in seconds later, dragging Antonio away. Firefighters followed, pulling Ava and Lorenzo toward the exit as the building groaned ominously. They stumbled out into the night air just as the warehouse collapsed completely behind them. Lorenzo pulled her close, both of them coughing and covered in soot. You were supposed to be on a plane. I was. Then I saw the news and realized I'd rather die in a burning warehouse with you than live safely without you. He laughed, a broken, relieved sound. You're insane. Probably, she cupped his face. But I'm your insane. If you'll have me. Ava Chen. I'll have you any way I can get you. He kissed her desperately, tasting like smoke and blood and future. But you need to understand, this life, my world, is my world now too, she pulled back, meeting his eyes. But we do this my way. No more unnecessary violence. We find better solutions. We be better than what came before. That's a tall order. Then it's good I'm here to keep you honest, she smiled. Someone has to be your conscience, remember? That was our deal. Lorenzo's arms tightened around her. I love you.
Completely.
Impossibly. I love you too. Even though you're the most frustrating patient I've ever had. Around them, paramedics loaded Antonio Moretti into an ambulance, alive, in custody. The war effectively ended. Lorenzo's men gathered, exhausted but victorious. Marco approached, grinning despite his injuries. Boss, the Moretti lieutenants are requesting negotiations. They want peace. Set it up, Lorenzo kept one arm around Ava. But Miss Chin joins all meetings. She's my partner now. In everything. The men nodded without hesitation. They'd seen her save lives during the villa attack. Seen her earn their respect. 3 months later, Ava stood on the villa's balcony, watching the sunset. The estate had been rebuilt, more beautiful than before. She'd converted one wing into a legitimate medical clinic, free healthcare for Lorenzo's employees and the surrounding community. Her way of bringing light into the darkness. Jake video called weekly from Barcelona, thriving in his engineering program. He'd met a girl. Life was good. Lorenzo emerged from the house, wrapping his arms around her waist. His wound had healed completely, thanks to her vigilant care. Regrets? He asked softly. Ava thought about the life she'd left behind. The safety she'd rejected. The normal future she'd sacrificed. Then she thought about the clinic they'd built. The lives they'd saved. The empire they were slowly transforming from the inside. The man who held her like she was his entire world. Not a single one, she said honestly.
Good.
Because you're stuck with me now. Is that a threat or a promise? Both, he turned her to face him, pulling out a small velvet box. Ava Chin, will you marry a reformed crime boss who's trying very hard to be better because of you? She looked at the ring, simple, elegant, perfect, then at the man who'd turned her life upside down in the best possible way. On one condition, she said, echoing their first deal. Name it. You let me keep slapping sense into you when you need it. Lorenzo laughed, genuine and free.
Deal.
She kissed him as the sun set over their dangerous, beautiful, impossible life. She'd walked into that emergency room expecting a normal night. She'd slapped a mafia boss by mistake. And somehow, impossibly, she'd found home in the last place she'd ever expected. In the arms of a monster who'd become a man. In a world of darkness that she was slowly filling with light. Together,